In general, will the ink cartridge from ink manufacturers work with all fountain pens? Specifically, will a Diamine ink cartridge work with a Pilot Metropolitan? Specifically, no. They absolutely are not universal. The only one that really is universal is called the Standard International, and that looks like this. This is the Standard International Short. There's a long version that's about twice as long as this. But this is a very kind of common looking ink cartridge. This is the style that Diamine uses. So if you look at Diamine's ink cartridges, it is called the Standard International. And what's standard about it is the end here. So it's going to click onto the pens that accept a Standard International cartridge or converter. And we usually, we always at Goulet Pens, we try to display on our site under each pen type what type of ink cartridge it will take, whether it's proprietary to that brand or whether it takes the Standard International. And there's a whole history about ink cartridges and how they've kind of come to be, knowledge that I don't have necessarily in my brain and can rattle off right at this moment. But for specifically, you're asking about the Pilot Metropolitan. The Pilot Metropolitan takes the proprietary Pilot Namiki cartridge, which looks very different than the Diamine one that would be the Standard International. Specifically, if you look at the end, it's just completely different. So if you go and try and fit a Pilot Metropolitan with a Standard International cartridge, it's going to be completely impossible because it's just going to do that. And it's going to flop around, it's going to fall out, and it's not going to puncture, and it's just not going to work. So you need the Pilot one that mates up perfectly in there. Stick it in and it works. So basically, you would need a converter to use bottled ink, or you would need a pen that would take a Standard International cartridge to use your Diamine ones. Now, the one weird thing that I'll just go ahead and call out is Pilot actually has a version of the Metropolitan that they sell in Europe. They call it the Pilot MR, that actually is fitted for Standard International cartridges. I guess these are much more common in Europe, and for whatever reason, in the US, they use Pilot Namiki cartridges. In Europe, they call it the MR, and they use the Standard International. So if you happen to come across a Pilot MR, it's a Metropolitan that takes Standard International. So that might be a good compromise for you maybe. But in general, you're going to need to look up specifically which type of cartridge your pen model will take. A lot of them are proprietary unless it's a Standard International. That's kind of like the one universal one that works across brands if that brand has chosen to use that Standard International fitting, if you will. So the best way to go is to look at gouletpens.com. We have a reference guide. I've put a link to it in the blog. It's called a Cartridge Converter Compatibility Guide. You can find it if you go to the Goulet Pens blog and then under reference guides, you can get there. It is kind of buried a little bit. I admit I need to find a better way to put that up there, but basically it's a cross-reference for all of the different pens, brands, and stuff like that, and which cartridge converter it will take. So it's not an exhaustive list of like every pen ever made, but at least it's all the ones that we carry and are familiar with. So that can help you out in that way. But you can always find it on the individual product page as well.